With that shocking Loki season finale in the books, we're not only setting up the big bad villain in the next few movies, but what we could be witnessing is Kevin Feige and the Marvel team undertaking something more ambitious than the Infinity Saga. Let's unravel the events in episode 6 of Loki to answer the following questions. Who is running the Time Variance Authority? What is the Nexus event that caused the multiverse to be created? What implications does this have to projects we've already seen in the MCU? And what's next? Obviously, a big spoiler alert if you haven't seen the Phase 4 projects yet. As we saw in the season finale of Loki, there was a scientist in the 31st century who discovered the existence of stacked universes running parallel to ours. With the discovery of this multiverse, he ended up meeting different versions of himself. While most of these scientists were good people and used this knowledge to help theirs and each other's worlds, not all were good-hearted. This friction leads to an all-out multiversal war where each version of this scientist is fighting for the survival of their universe. The one who survives, dubbed He Who Remains, finds a way to leave the timeline and isolate his universe. He then changes history and the flow of events, isolating his timeline and preventing the multiverse from being created or discovered. This history and flow of time is the Marvel Cinematic Universe we have been watching with the introduction of Iron Man in 2008. Now, in episode 6 of Loki, Sylvie and Loki discover He Who Remains at the Citadel at the end of time, a massive castle that exists seemingly outside of the timeline. This mysterious, almost zany character fills them in on this information and presents them with a choice. Either take over the TVA and ensure that the multiverse is never discovered, or kill He Who Remains, give free will to all the people, and a multiversal war will ensue. He's in the midst of explaining all this to Loki and Sylvie when all of a sudden he stops and notes that the Nexus threshold has been crossed and they are now on track to creating a multiverse. This is where things get interesting. Bear with me while I run you down a Pepe de Silvia-esque rabbit hole on what I think created the multiverse. Now, when I first watched Loki episode 6, I was a little confused as to what caused the Nexus event that will lead to the discovery of the multiverse. I initially thought it was the TVA agents discovering the fact that they themselves were once variants. However, me and other people on the internet were not so convinced. There was someone crazy enough on the internet to look at the timestamp of when the multiverse is created in Loki and compare it to the timestamp of when Wanda becomes the Scarlet Witch in Wanda Vision. And both events occur 27 minutes and 49 seconds into their episodes. Coincidence?
I think not!
Okay, even I agree that this could just be crazy coincidence and that Marvel fans have gone way too deep down the rabbit hole. But if we consider the details, it actually might make sense and we might be onto something here. We know that He Who Remains has already seen the future. We know this because he's able to dodge Sylvie's attacks using the tempad. He's got a script for what Loki and Sylvie say in the Citadel. And even when faced with certain death, he looks Sylvie in the eye and says, "See you soon." This means that some other Nexus event occurred that caused the multiverse to be created. Now, let's consider some things from Wanda Vision. That's the first time we hear the word Nexus in the MCU. It's in episode 7 of WandaVision during the in-show commercial, referring to an antidepressant that revolves around choosing your own reality. And in the comics, Wanda is a Nexus being that has the ability to alter the future and the flow of time. What's more interesting is that Kevin Feige did say that Nexus beings are going to be a big part of the MCU moving forward, so it is interesting to see how this plays out. When Wanda transforms into the Scarlet Witch at the end of the finale, Agatha Harkness warns her that she has no idea what she did, hinting that her realizing her full potential and becoming the Scarlet Witch has bigger implications outside of the Hex. Digging even deeper into the rabbit hole for just a sec, the finale of WandaVision takes place 1 month after the big battle with Thanos in Endgame. That battle takes place immediately after the Avengers travel back in time to retrieve the Infinity Stones, which is when our Loki variant escapes from New York and is promptly intercepted by the TVA. Also, to make things more interesting, during episode 5 of Loki, when they are in the void, Loki complains that it may have been days or months since New York. Since the 2012 timeline where Loki escaped has been pruned, this could time up perfectly with when Wanda is in the Hex. So what does all this mean for things we've already seen in the MCU? I personally think we've already seen the implications of the multiverse being created in Marvel's Cinematic Universe, specifically in Spider-Man Far From Home. In the end credits scene, where Peter Parker's identity is revealed to the public, we're reintroduced to J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, a role he played in the Sam Raimi run of Spider-Man back in the early 2000s. While this could have just been seen as a fun nod to the iconic series, this could also be a consequence of the multiverse. Now, I didn't catch any multiverse effects in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but if you did, please drop it in the comments below. So what's next in the MCU? The next addition in the Marvel lineup is What If. This is an animated series featuring almost every character we've seen in Marvel. We are going to get a glimpse into the multiverse and see how some of the most famous scenes in Marvel play out slightly differently than what we are used to, including T'Challa becoming a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy instead of the Black Panther, Captain Carter becoming a super soldier instead of Steve Rogers, Killmonger saving Tony Stark from being kidnapped by terrorists and being hit by shrapnel. And what's great about this series is that it'll feature all the original actors from their roles reprising in their series, including Robert Downey Jr. and even the late great Chadwick Boseman. So that wraps up all the theories that I've had and things that I've seen and noticed. What are you expecting to see next? And what storyline from the comics would you like to see adapted on the big screen now? Please let me know in the comments below. And please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.